November 1942. The fog of Copenhagen swallows the streets and anyone walking through them. A German officer moves without haste, unaware that someone is following him. There is no flash, no clear sound to announce his end. One moment he is breathing, the next he is lying on the cobblestones. His assassin is already far away, the weapon hidden in his sleeve like a workshop tool. That pistol, more similar to a piece of pipe than to a military weapon, certainly did not shine for elegance. No trigger guard, no chrome plating, no shape suggesting prestige. And yet that clumsy object would earn a reputation as the most effective instrument in Allied covert operations. The Wellrod was not born for the front lines. It was conceived for a kind of war that does not appear on maps, made of dark stairwells, backrooms, requisition departments, and close encounters, where only one thing mattered: striking without drawing attention. Its distinctive trait was a silence so deep that the target often collapsed before anyone realized something had happened. In 1941, the SOE's problem was clear: infiltrated agents in occupied territories were increasing sabotage missions, but when it came to discreetly eliminating a target, options were little more than rudimentary. A knife required too much proximity, a garrote required strength and position, poison offered neither speed nor certainty. They needed a pistol capable of firing at close range without turning the street into a living alarm. Silencers of the time were not enough. Weapons theoretically silent still produced noises equivalent to industrial tools, 120, 130 decibels, loud enough to be clearly heard across the street. What was missing was a truly discreet, manageable, reliable weapon. The assignment landed on the desk of a small group within the Inter-Services Research Bureau, Station 9, just outside London. Major Hugh Reeves and a handful of engineers, most of whom remain anonymous in the documents, decided to tackle the challenge not as traditional gunsmiths, but as people obsessed with sound. And above all, with eliminating it. They knew a gunshot sounds, for three reasons: the explosion of gases at the muzzle, the supersonic crack of the bullet, and the noise of mechanical parts. To achieve a truly discreet shot, all these voices had to be silenced. They started with the bullet. Standard 9mm cartridges exceed the speed of sound and produce an unavoidable sonic crack. The solution was to lower the powder charge, maintaining the same caliber but reducing the velocity to just below the supersonic threshold. Slower bullet, silent flight. Then they eliminated the slide noise by replacing the semi-automatic system with a manually operated bolt. No metallic clicks, no cycling, just a movement controlled by the shooter via a rear knob. What remained was the hardest part: muffling the gas explosion. They did not build a simple silencer. They integrated the entire acoustic suppressor into the pistol's body. The front section was a long sequence of chambers and baffles that trapped, cooled, and slowed the gases before releasing them. Its architecture was closer to a filter than to a weapon. The result was astonishing. Where a standard 9mm pistol produced a blast of about 160 decibels, the Wellrod stayed around 70, roughly the sound of a car door closing. At 10 meters, the shot blended into the city's murmur. The weapon's appearance was disarming in its simplicity: a black tube just over 30 centimeters long, a cylindrical rubber-coated grip that held a 6-round magazine, later increased to 8, and a barely hinted trigger. The sights were reduced to the minimum. Maximum effectiveness was achieved at very short range, exactly as intended. The Wellrod was designed to operate almost at zero distance, a weapon meant to be pressed directly against the target, or used in the tight corners of a room. At those ranges, accuracy mattered little. What counted was that no one heard anything. And from this perspective, the weapon exceeded every expectation. Production began toward the end of 1942. Exact figures remain shrouded in secrecy even today, but estimates place the number of units somewhere between a few thousand and several tens of thousands. Such a wide range says much about the clandestine nature of the project. deliberately altered serial numbers, minimal documentation, records lost or made to disappear. Its operational debut came in early 1943. The first weapons reached the European resistance through night airdrops, and soon the Wellrod became an object of both respect and fear. In France, the Maquis used it for targeted actions against particularly brutal officers or dangerous collaborators. It was the ideal weapon for striking silently and melting into the crowd before anyone realized what had happened. One report tells of a target eliminated in a crowded Paris cafe. The killer walked away among the tables while the others continued talking, unaware that among them sat a man who would never rise again. In Denmark, the Holger Danske group employed it against informants, Gestapo agents, and local collaborators. The fact that it could be fired in broad daylight, in densely controlled urban areas, made it a crucial element in their operations. In Norway, SOE operators used it during sabotage missions. A guard's silence without noise meant gaining the few seconds needed to blow up infrastructure and vanish. Over time, the mere idea that a gunshot could be lethal and invisible created a huge psychological effect on occupation troops. Silence, once a source of safety, became uncertain territory. Collaborating with the Germans stopped seeming like a safe option when punishment could arrive without warning and without sound. If all this is captivating you, it takes only a few seconds to subscribe and support the work behind these stories. In the meantime, it's worth understanding how the Wellrod fit into the landscape of silenced weapons of the era. The Germans focused mainly on modifications of existing pistols. The Walther PPK with a screw-on suppressor, for instance, could reduce the blast, but remained loud enough to be heard across a street. Moreover, their design philosophy was different. They wanted more discreet weapons for marksmen, not tools for witnessless eliminations. The Americans, on the other hand, developed the HDM, a .22 caliber suppressed pistol used by the OSS. It was surprisingly quiet, but the light ammunition had its limits. Often several shots were needed, and the heavy winter clothing in Europe reduced its effectiveness even further. The Wellrod used a reduced power 9mm round, yet still capable of delivering far greater impact. The numbers speak for themselves. About 73 dB for the Wellrod. About 90 dB for the American HDM. Rarely below 115 dB for modified German pistols. In the narrow and ruthless field of silent elimination, the Wellrod played in a league of its own. Its only real limitation concerned the integrated suppressor. The rubber discs that sealed the bullet's passage wore out with each shot. If you enjoyed this story, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and comment where you're watching from. See you in the next video.